I'm really loath to do this video, but I have a problem with Donald Trump. I have a problem with the revisionist history attempting to say that Iran is the number one sponsor of terror, when in fact everyone knows that it's Saudi Arabia. Wahhabism came out of Saudi Arabia and was exported via Turkey through to Syria. That was there to take down Assad. That was there for regime change. And we were funding the moderate rebels which were trying to take down Assad. We were actually funding Al-Qaeda and arming them. Now we've let them back off. Now we've let the Russians take over and take out ISIS, etc., ostensibly and tacitly supporting Assad whilst actually using the rhetoric against Assad. But we still use the propaganda from the West, the actual same sources like the White Helmets and the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, or Peter Tatchell and his propaganda machine. But Trump knows. He knows full well that the number one exporter of terrorism in the world is Saudi Arabia. He knows that he's done deals with them which are worth too much money to destroy based on the lives of some journalists or whatever, whoever get tortured and killed, stabbed 1,000 times, whatever, like Khashoggi. I haven't really talked about it, but it could have caused a big international event. Of course it wasn't going to, because ultimately every country has to forgive Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia have all the money. Saudi Arabia pay to be at the top of the UN. They control the UN. They control the NGOs. They control the agenda. They own all the shares of censorship. They control the censorship and Sharia compliance around the world. Saudi Arabia is the big problem with the world. They're the ones exporting Wahhabism, genociding Yemen. They're the ones that cause the problems in Syria. They're the ones we've been working with in the West to take down moderate Islam. I know Islam's a problem. I know it's horrible. And I know Iran doesn't have any human rights. But Saudi Arabia has fewer. And Trump is in denial of that fact, because he has to capitulate to a certain extent with the deep state. That's a problem. There's also a problem that he appoints Monsanto lobbyists, etc., in high positions, and the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, who was a Wall Street Goldman Sachs executive. Exactly the opposite of Trumpism. Exactly what Trump should be held to account for. But the MAGA people, the sycophants, the Bill Mitchells, etc., they won't hold him to account. They just say he can do no wrong. Well, of course he can do wrong, and he's doing wrong right now with Assange. He said, I love WikiLeaks, I use WikiLeaks, and Podesta emails were quintessential in his ascension. So why has he just thrown them to the wolves? Why has he just abandoned Julian Assange at this critical moment when now America is slapping erroneous charges on this whistleblowing hero? Which used to be a hero of the left, but now they've abandoned him because he actually helped get Trump in. It's universally acknowledged, and particularly by people like Hillary, that he helped get Trump in. That the Podesta emails leaked and Seth Rich died for helped get Trump elected. And now Trump is abandoning WikiLeaks and turning his back on them like the traitor that he just may be. He's been doing a lot in terms of fighting back globalism, and he is a beachhead against the globalist technocracy, which is sweeping the globe. It's completely taken over the world with its fake communism, socialism, globalism, plutocracy, oligarchy paradigm. Trump was the antithesis to that, and he's good in many, many ways. But in order to not get assassinated, in order to not get taken out completely, he has to toe the line to a certain extent and capitulate with the deep state. And in the case of Saudi Arabia, that becomes a huge problem because we've just got a huge genocide happening in Yemen. We've got more refugee crises happening in the future, more NGOs, more migrants. And now that the UN want to make migration, illegal migration, a human right, and now that countries are rejecting or passing it, Australia's just rejected the UN Migrant Pact, by the way, but we're likely to sign it because we are a country which has been decimated and destroyed by our treasonous government. How many countries can say that? Quite a few. But Trump is brilliant for America. I wish there was someone like that in the UK. It would be brilliant to have the populist, someone who admits to being a nationalist rather than some Orwellian nonsense like Macron saying that patriotism is antithetical to nationalism. That didn't wash and no one was convinced. Particularly not historians who know what these terms mean. And Trump hasn't tweeted about Laura Loomer, and she's just been removed from Facebook as well now. This censorship is rigging the elections, is racketeering. It does need to be clamped down on. They need to enforce antitrust laws, Trump. You need to do more than just talk about it. You need to do more than just tweet. You need to do something about Soros. You need to do something about Antifa. You still need to do something about locking her up, draining the swamp, building the wall. You haven't done any of that. However, you have said that you're going to build a space force, and all your MAGA sycophants have all said, yeah, space force, because that's the priority, isn't it, Trump?